So we've come a long way on the issue of marijuana, and the Overton window has shifted quite a bit in a way that was unimaginable even just 5 years ago. So I want to show you what the previous Democratic president said about the issue of marijuana. You're going to see something from early on in his time in office, and then also from later on in his time in office. Take a look.
Votes about which questions were going to be asked. And I think 3 million people voted, or 3.5 million people voted. I have to say that there was one question that was voted on that ranked fairly high, and that was whether legalizing marijuana would improve the economy and job creation. And I don't know what this says about the online audience, but I just want, I don't want people to think that this was a fairly popular question. We want to make sure that it was answered. The answer is no. I don't think that is a good strategy to grow our economy. So, all right.
Another big issue in this country right now has to do with the legalization of marijuana. You gave an interview to the New Yorker's David Remnick, and you said that you thought smoking pot was a bad habit, but you didn't think it was any worse for a person than drinking. Now, that contradicts the official Obama administration policy, both on the website of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, and also the fact that marijuana is considered a Schedule I narcotic along with heroin and ecstasy. Now, do you think you were maybe talking just a little too casually about it with Remnick and the New Yorker, or are you considering not making marijuana a Schedule I narcotic?
Well, first of all, what is and isn't a Schedule I narcotic is a job for Congress.
I think it's the DEA that decides that.
It's not something by ourselves that we start changing. No, there are laws undergirding those determinations.
Would you support that move?
But the broader point, I stand by my belief, based, I think, on the scientific evidence, that marijuana for casual users, individual users, is subject to abuse just like alcohol is, and should be treated as a public health problem and challenge. But as I said in the interview, my concern is when you end up having very heavy criminal penalties for individual users that have been applied unevenly, and in some cases with a racial disparity. I think that is a problem. Over the long term, what I believe is if we can deal with some of the criminal penalty issues, then we can really tackle what is a problem not just for marijuana, but also alcohol, also cigarettes, also harder drugs, and that is try to make sure that our kids don't get into these habits in the first place. And the incarceration model that we've taken, particularly around marijuana, does not seem to have produced the kinds of results that we've set. But I do offer a cautionary note, and I said this in the interview. Those who think legalization is a panacea, I think they have to ask themselves some tough questions too. Because if we start having a situation where big corporations with a lot of resources and distribution and marketing arms are suddenly going out there peddling marijuana, then the levels of abuse that may take place are going to be higher.
So that last statement was the best that Obama got on the issue of marijuana. Now, to be fair to him, when he started out, he was just flat out anti-marijuana, even though he had smoked it a lot when he was younger. But then by the end, he softened a little bit, and in his second term, the end of his second term, he started pardoning a lot of nonviolent drug offenders. And I remember giving him credit, show after show. I'd have to come out here and say, oh, Obama pardoned another 27, nonviolent drug offenders. Oh, he pardoned over 100 nonviolent drug offenders. So towards the end of his time in office, he didn't do a bad job. But for him to not just say, I think we should legalize, tax, and regulate recreational marijuana, and also maybe couple that with whatever, a tax that then funds education and drug rehabilitation centers or something. The fact that he couldn't just come out and say that, I think shows he's more of a product of his time than people give credit for. And he's not like Bernie Sanders is a leader when nobody's saying the stuff that they should be saying. He comes out and just says it. Barack Obama's like, which way's the wind blowing? Oh, okay, I'm going to split the middle and find some middle ground and give you some bullshit incrementalism word salad to make you think I'm revolutionary, when in reality I'm, putting lipstick on a pig of the broken status quo. So that was what he said. Now, to show you how far we've come, this is in honor of 420 here. I'm going to give you the breakdown of what most of the Dem candidates think about this issue. Cory Booker says he wants to legalize recreational marijuana. Buttigieg wants to legalize recreational marijuana. Castro wants to legalize recreational marijuana. Delaney wants to legalize recreational marijuana. Tulsi wants to legalize. Gillibrand, legalize. But only recently did she come around to that position, so it might be totally opportunist. You're going to have to determine which ones of these people are it's sheer opportunism and trying to get with the times and which ones really mean it. Kamala Harris says she used to oppose it. Now she's for legalizing it. Hickenlooper, the breakfast cereal, used to oppose it. Now he wants to let the states decide. He blocked it when it was happening in Colorado, and he was against it, so do with that what you will. Inslee says legalize it. Cloud Boot Jar says legalize it, but only through the states. Warren says legalize it, but through the states as a compromise. Beto says legalize it. Bernie, legalize it. Yang, legalize it. Even Bill Weld, who's the goofball who's challenging Trump in the primary, says legalize it. The only person that I've seen running in 2020 that doesn't favor one version or another, one extent of another, of legalization or decriminalization, Donald Trump. He's the only one. He does not support legalization or decriminalization. So we have come a long way on this issue. Now it's a question as to whether or not whichever the Democratic candidate ends up being, whether or not they'll actually fight for it. That's a different question and a much more difficult question. But let's be clear. We have evolved quite a bit on this issue, and that's a wonderful thing, and we're only going to evolve further.